And just like that, we are back. 2022 season starts tomorrow. Unofficially, of course, because the Clash is a non-points event, but still, NASCAR is back in a big way. And of course, outside of the new drivers, new faces, on the heels of what was, in my opinion, one of the craziest, if not the craziest, off-season in NASCAR history. There were a lot of things that came out of left field. But of course, the main reason why people have been anticipating and hyping up so much this upcoming season has been, of course, the next-gen car. A car that has been teased about ever since 2018, I believe. The car was supposed to debut last season, but of course, because of the pandemic and stuff like that, it had to be delayed for 2022. But still, from what I have seen and I have heard throughout last season about the next gen car and how it looks, especially seeing all of these kick-ass paint schemes just rolling out, I gotta say I have very high hopes for this next gen car. But of course, a lot of people still may be asking ourselves, what is the craze with all of this next gen car? Or some people that may be, for example, some people may be getting into NASCAR, into the sport, they may be like asking themselves, why are people so crazy about this car? What's so special about it? So of course, I decided to make this video in order to introduce people to and give myself some general thoughts about what the next gen car is and what to expect from this car in this upcoming season. This video is not gonna go too much in depth about the next gen car or how it works. I'm just gonna be going through some of the general stuff that we already know about the next gen car to the best of my ability. So let's get on with it. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is the why. Why is NASCAR, or why does the next gen car look the way it looks? What was the thought process behind NASCAR making the next gen car like this? What's the point? Well, in my opinion, and the biggest reason why, is financial reasons. Cost cutting, more specifically. It is no secret that NASCAR has been a very expensive sport, and with the sport entering a period of decline in the 2010s, it has been it has become much harder for teams, for the smaller teams especially, to stay afloat during these times. That, and of course the pandemic hitting at the start of the new decade, that hasn't helped matters either. So of course the main objective of the next gen car is to be cost effective, and it will give teams more leeway in terms of their finances. It won't be as expensive as the next gen car, and not only that, it will also be attractive. The next gen car will also serve as a sort of a pitch to the manufacturers outside the sport, to potentially Honda or Nissan or even Dodge returning to NASCAR. These companies may see the next gen car being profitable all around, and they might actually consider just giving a shot at NASCAR racing, just joining NASCAR and see how they do. That's the main objective of NASCAR since the Gen 6 days. It has been to add a fourth manufacturer to what is alongside Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota. Like ever since Dodge left, that has been the main objective of NASCAR, and we as fans have always speculated, what's gonna be this fourth mystery manufacturer that's gonna join the sport? Will it be Honda, Nissan, Dodge, or will it be something else? Of course, with the next gen car being cost effective, now this becomes a real possibility that we may see that fourth manufacturer, of course. Now, of course, here's the kicker. When the next gen car was first revealed in the month of May, Jim Otter, he tweeted that every NASCAR Cup Series team will be limited to 7 cars for the 2022 season onwards, like with the next gen car. Now, of course, when I talk about team, when he talks about team, he doesn't make reference to, oh, Hendrick Motorsports is going to have 7 cars for all of his 4 entries. No, they're going to have, for every car number, for every entry, they're going to have 7 cars. So, for example, teams like Hendrick Motorsports and Jacobs Racing, they're going to have 28 next-gen cars, 7 for every car number, for every entry they have. And of course, this is no big deal at first, or at least at first, this was no big deal because this was, we all knew this was like a cost-cutting measure for NASCAR. The best way to just cut corners where you can is to just limit the number of cars you can actually have per each season. Like set a cap before the season starts, and then teams have to work their way below that cap without going over the limit. It's kind of a salary cap in a way, if you catch my drift. However, when the test at Daytona in January happened, when the next gen testing at Daytona happened last month, there was this piece of news from Bob Pockrass that kind of took me by surprise, and I know I wasn't the only one. And this is the piece of news. He reported that as of the January test at Daytona, of course, because that was when he reported this, that teams, or most of the teams, reported that they only have 2 next-gen cars ready for every entry, and a third one is under construction. And this, of course, is very startling, as NASCAR, they speculated that, the speculation was that by the time the Daytona 500 roll around, NASCAR was going to have at least, or all teams were going to have at least 5 cars ready, 5 units ready, not just 2 and a third one in the works. And this is, again, this is very shocking, because this means that the Daytona 500, there may be no backup cars in the Daytona 500, because you can't afford to just run both cars and then risk crashing both of them and then have nothing for the rest of the season. This is actually very surprising. This just means that, yes, while the next gen car may not be as expensive as it was, it is very time consuming. And this fact that the next gen production is very time consuming, and it is a very slow process apparently, of course, the next gen car is a new car, of course. I expect over the coming years, I expect the production of this car to just speed up. It is no surprise that the next gen car is taking like is taking so long. It's because it's a new car, and teams are still and everybody's still learning how the thing works and all this stuff. But of course, the fact that it is very time consuming, this goes in conjunction with the vendor list that the next gen, that NASCAR put out when they unveiled the next gen as well. As you can see here, of course, you can see, for example, Goodyear, they provide the tires, Sunoco, they provide the fuels. But the main point I want you to understand is that this vendor list is very, and I mean very specific. It is very specific. And of course, NASCAR last week, they just put out a new penalty system that, to put it bluntly, they basically penalize anybody who uses parts that are not approved by NASCAR, aka the ones that are not on the vendor list. And of course, this puts teams in a situation where they have very little wiggle room to operate, because if they need a part for their next gen car, if they have a part missing or they just need to replace it, they have to wait until that specific company gives it to them. They just cannot go to another company and just have them and just have that part and just tell them to give them that part, because then they're gonna be hit with severe penalties. Even if that just doesn't give them any sort of competitive advantage, the rules were already put in place before the season started that you cannot use parts that are not approved by NASCAR. So of course, when you think about it, it makes sense why the next gen car, or at least the production of the next gen car, has been very slow. Of course, NASCAR came forward and said that, well, the production of the next gen car is behind schedule. They still expect every single team to be ready for the Daytona 500 and other races and the next few races moving forward. So for now, there is no risk of somebody missing a race because they don't have a car ready for the event. However, there is a lot of speculation that with the production of the next gen car being behind schedule, there is going to be a lot of teams that are just going to bring their primary car to the event, and they're not going to bother with a backup car. And this seems to be the norm going forward. I've seen NASCAR experiment with this, with only teams bringing their primary car for practice, qualifying, and the race, all on one car. They don't have to bother with using backup cars. So of course, this is another cost-cutting measure. Just only bring one car to the event and get it over with. If it crashes, you have to work overnight to repair it, basically. And that's about it. Now, when we're talking about the next gen car, we have to mention the rumors. A lot of rumors surrounding the next gen car, more specifically the safety concerns. Because in the month of July of last year, there was a crash test, and there were a lot of reports stating that NASCAR was pretty unhappy with the crash test, that the crash dummy was pretty much obliterated during the crash, that the car was deemed unsafe, that the next gen car could be pushed back for one more season because of these safety concerns. However, of course, once again, NASCAR they debunked those rumors, saying that they were pretty happy with the development of the safety part of the next gen car. And of course, while several drivers have been reported as being shaken up, for example, William Byron, for example, he has stated that he's had the wind knocked out of him because of the intensity of driving the next gen car, I guess. And also several drivers during the tire test during the testing at Daytona, they have stated that they have expressed a lot of concerns surrounding the heat exhaustion. And mind you, this is in the month of January. This testing was held in January, in winter. Imagine when we go into the summer months, there could be a few drivers. I wouldn't be surprised if a few drivers start suffering from heat exhaustion because of the extreme heat or the extreme temperatures inside the next gen car, compared to, of course, the older Gen 6 car. And now we'll go into the meat and bones of this next gen car, or rather the features that will be reflected on the track, like that will directly affect the racing product. First of all, the Downforce package. The engine is going to be a 670 horsepower for all events, if not most of them, but it is going to be like a pretty uniform aero package. It's not going to be like 550 small blade on the bigger, 550 for the bigger tracks, 750 for the smaller tracks. No, this time it's going to be 670 horsepower for all tracks. Or rather, most of the tracks, they still might just reduce the horsepower for the super speedways, but for the super speedway tracks or other bigger tracks, but still, at least for the shorter and intermediate tracks, that's the horsepower package to go. The spoiler is also going to be uniform. It's always going to be the same small spoiler for every track. It doesn't matter if it's a super speedway or a short track. You're always going to be seeing that low small bladed spoiler. The bumpers look pretty good. The step splitter is going to be raised. So now we'll no longer be seeing, hopefully, we'll no longer be seeing any accidents like where a car just goes for the grass and just gets destroyed. The front of the car gets destroyed. Hopefully we don't see any of that. There's also a lower, more composite, more resilient body, just like the Xfinity cars. A body more built for bumping and banging that will also hopefully improve the racing product, as we have seen in the Xfinity series. The composite body has produced a lot of great results in terms of the racing package. Xfinity has produced some great racing in recent years with those composite bodies. So the expectation is that the Cup series is going to produce the exact same racing, or even better racing with these composite bodies. There's also this 5-gear transmission. Now teams, historically NASCAR has always been like a 4th gear in sport, where 4th gear is like the highest gear. With the next gen car, they're gonna be adding a 5th gear to the transmission. And of course, there's also the single lock nut. NASCAR, once again, 5 lock nuts, has always been a 5 lock nut tires, but now they're changing things up with just 1 lock nut. Of course, once again, I'm not gonna doubt that this is a cost-cutting measure, but also it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how those pit stops are gonna be. I expect that the pit stops are gonna be slightly faster, because I know that the air gun for these lug nuts is pretty heavy, so I do not expect the pit stop speeds to actually improve by that much. But hey, maybe in the near future we can actually see a pit stop that is less than, let's say, a 4-tire pit stop that is less than 10 seconds. That would be actually pretty cool. So overall, what is my opinion on this next-gen car? What is the expectation that I have for this next-gen car? I gotta say, I'm hyped. I'm pretty hyped for the next-gen car, especially after all of those amazing paint schemes that I have seen. The change of the number placement moving forward, it has honestly grown on me, especially since sponsors have actually adopted well to the change, and they are using all of that extra space to their fullest. And of course, those paint schemes that they have released, at least most of those, of course there are a few dots out there that I'm not really a big fan of, but overall most of them have looked pretty amazing, I gotta say. I have no doubt that those paint schemes will look beautiful during the Daytona 500. I have no doubt that the cars will race pretty good during the season. Now, of course, there's a catch there. I'm not expecting much in this first season of the next-gen car. Like, I know drivers have been testing this car non-stop ever since the season ended, all off-season long, so they actually have a feel of how this car is gonna work. However, you cannot control the weather. You cannot control track conditions. So of course, I still expect teams to actually figure out this next-gen car. And I still expect, so of course, I expect like a few races where the next-gen car is not going to do way too hot. But I will see also, we're going to be seeing other races this season where the next-gen car is going to show its full potential. It's going to, at the very least, show flashes of the racing product it can be capable of bringing to us. And overall, as the seasons go on, I am very hopeful for this, that this next-gen car will be one of the catalysts for NASCAR return to the national spotlight. We already have several like celebrity owners like Michael Jordan, Pitbull, Floyd Mayweather. The money team is finally official now. And there's also Scott Borchetta from the Big Machine Racing Group. There's a lot of celebrities that are interested in NASCAR. So that narrative that NASCAR is dying or that NASCAR is dead and has always been dead ever since Dale Sr. died, that narrative is pretty dead. It was pretty ridiculous when that narrative started, and it's still ridiculous now. So pretty funny how things work out. But anyways, 2022 season, here we come.